Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon from Lockdown Central, Lockdown Sydney, and we've got our friends down in Melbourne also back in lockdown. It seems to be a reoccurring issue, but one thing that could get you by during this lockdown period and pick up a few tips is this book right here, Shareplicity #2. It's possibly even better than the original version. Now, we're very happy here at Red Leaf's home office to have Danielle Ecuyer, the author behind this, to discuss, and we'll ask her a few questions. How are you today? How's lockdown treating you?
Good. Thank you, John. Good. We're going to have to practice that French pronunciation of the Ecuyer, though.
Ecuyer, sorry. You know, coming from a Greek background, you think I'll be mastering other people's surnames, but anyway, sorry. Ecuyer.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm just having a joke with you.
That's all right. It's just lockdown. But I did put on a shirt and a jacket on for you. I'm usually in my activewear, so
all's good.
That's great. You're looking good too. All right, so let's start off with the book. What inspired you to make a second edition after the great #1, which I really loved, a US edition? What inspired you behind this book?
Well, it's pretty simple. I started investing in the US about 5 years ago, and it was after I'd sold a lot of my blue chip stocks here in Australia. I was quite fortunate to sell the banks around their 2015 high, and I really was looking for something different in the way I was investing. And it was a huge strategic shift for me to go and say, wow, I can invest overseas, in the US in particular, and I kind of want to be part of that big technology growth story that's happening over there. Because as you know, John, Australia is essentially a very, cyclical resource, housing related, stock market economy. Of course, we have some emerging great e-commerce stories, technology companies, but the pickings are just so huge in America. And I felt that I wanted Australians to be part of what I am experiencing, which is this incredible investing journey over in the biggest markets in the world. And hence, that's why I wanted to write the book.
Now, in the first version, you mentioned the movie Ferrari v Ford. In this version, you made a fictional Netflix series called Ford versus Tesla. Tesla, the one I'm having a shock this morning, Tesla. Anywho, Ford versus Tesla. Now, why did you bring up that analogy, and who do you think is going to win? And on a side note, shouldn't it be Tesla versus Volkswagen? But anyway, that's another mute point.
Well, yeah, it could be Tesla versus Volkswagen. It could be Tesla versus every other ICE, internal combustion engine, manufacturing company in the world. The fact was, I just wanted to draw on the analogy of the first chapter of the first book, because I think it's an excellent way to explain to investors the cultural differences between companies. And this is something that I think a lot of people choose not to look at, or they just find it all too hard. So the point of the first story was to explain through the movie, through the analogy, that Ford and Ferrari are incredibly different companies. Of course, the cars are different, but the culture is different. And that creates a different outcome, not only in terms of the quality of the cars, but also in terms of the quality of the earnings. The same applies to Ford versus Tesla. And there is this massive debate going around that all the incumbent car manufacturers can literally just transition to EV manufacturers. You pretty much keep the same shape of the cars, you adapt them a little bit, and you just throw in the electric motor and you get your batteries and off you go. What I was trying to show, that the Tesla story is so much more than that. And it was really to explain to people, not to necessarily make them go out and buy the shares, even though I am a huge, Tesla fan, was to explain to them that Elon Musk had this vision that he wanted to start the transformation of mobility, of cars, away from being petroleum-based, oil-based, fossil fuel-based cars to electric cars. And the reason he did it was he was concerned we were going to have peak oil. As it's actually turned out, we didn't get peak oil, but now we have this climate catastrophe that is upon us. And one of the points I make is the pie is going to grow so big with electric vehicles the fact is there's going to be more than one player in there. And it was just to give people a lovely story to set the stage for the rest of the book. So I've probably gone on a little bit longer, but it really sets the stage for how the world is changing and where I wanted to take the book in the next few chapters, which is explaining the new versus the old economy stocks.
Fair enough. Now, a lot of investors and a lot of readers wouldn't even have a clue or where to start to invest. How do I invest in American stocks? So could you outline the easiest possible way to get exposure to US equities?
Well, probably the easiest way is through some of the ETF products that are listed here in Australia. So you can buy the NASDAQ, you can buy the S&P 500. You can also buy some of the big mega secular themes such as cybersecurity, green energy, lithium. They're all provided through ETF providers here in Australia. So you actually don't even have to move beyond the Australian market. If you do what I do, however, is that you just set up through your platform. Most platforms allow you to invest now in the US. I happen to be on ComSec. It's just through past history. And you just buy your US dollars and you literally go into the market and you buy your shares. And over there, the choice is obviously overwhelming, but you also have a lot more ETFs. So if you don't want to have to do direct stock picking, the ETF products are there in the US as well. And that's what the book details in depth for people, all these alternative ETF products that are available in both Australia and the US.
Now, in this era of unlimited money supply and constant printing of money and low cash rate, where do you see the US equity market heading, and will it ever turn? Like, when will the cash rate eventually go up?
That's the how many $1 trillion question are we at now?
Sure. Sure.
I think the book's proposition is that we're never going to go back to the rates that we've seen in the past. And I make the argument in chapter 3 of the book why I see that rates are going to stay low for a longer period of time. Of course, there's going to be an adjustment up at some stage, when being the case. And there are still people very much of the view that we've got a 1970s style reflation, inflation coming through. Personally, I'm not convinced. I'm more aligned with the Federal Reserve. So I think at the end of the day, the theme of the book is that you're going to continue to see rates lower. That doesn't mean they're going to be as low as now, but you're never going back to 4 or 5%. And if you did, you would have total economic collapse in asset classes across the world. And I quote the work of Victor Schwetz, who's the global economist at Macquarie Bank, and he makes some really good points there. No politician, no central banker is ever going to go there. So taking a long-term view, I'm very bullish on the US markets. I think you want exposure to innovation and technology, and they're still the leaders. That's why going into the next decade, I think everybody should have exposure to the US. And
lastly, what is the major take you want without ruining the book, so we want everyone to go buy it, what's the major take you want your readers to get out of this book, and where can they get it? Where's the easiest place to get this book?
You can buy it. Well, we're all some of us are in isolation. Most of us are in lockdown. So
reading time.
So I would suggest that probably the ideal place is to go online. And it's available at Booktopia, Amazon. Most people have it available online. It's available basically everywhere, all good bookstores. You can buy signed copies at my website, but I'm in isolation for the next week, so you have to wait a little while. The main takeaway, really, it was to open people's eyes to how much the world has changed as a result of the pandemic, how much we have shifted. And it's really to give some light, shine some light on these big secular megatrends that are happening across the globe. And I outline them in detail. That's not to say that companies, older style companies, old economy companies are not going to be around, but really every company has to continue to invest, to innovate, and to change. And one of the best pieces of advice is to understand you will make more money out of a company that can grow its revenue. That's been proven by a study by Morgan Stanley. But also some companies don't last forever. And that's what I think everybody has to remember. We are living through a transformational shift in the way the world is working. And you can capture that in the stock markets.
Thank you. Everyone, do yourself a favor, go online. You're in ISO. It's a great read and it'll get you through the ISO period. Thank you for coming on board. And hopefully we get to see each other face to face next time for
Absolutely.
the third. I'm waiting for the third edition.
Yes, I know. My mind keeps on thinking over what that's going to be. But at the moment, I just need to have a bit of a breather. 2 books in just over, well, a year and a half is, well, yeah, it's pretty full on.
Well, thanks for coming on board, and
Thank you.
We'll chat soon. Everyone, have a good read. See ya.